Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Today I'm going to be talking about Lucid Motors delaying the production of their $70,000 Lucid Air Pure. I'm also going to be talking about the Saudi PIF investing in their own EV car company and potentially disregarding Lucid in the future, which wouldn't be great. I'm then also going to be giving some updates on Nano Dimensions, or NNDM, and Senseonics, or SENS, as both of these companies have been pretty active lately and have got some big upcoming catalysts. But before we dive into the video, I just want to remind you all to subscribe to the channel, ding that notification bell, drop a like down below, check out the links in the description to Webull and Freetrade to get those free shares, and consider joining the Patreon and becoming part of the team. Now I want to dive straight in with the key information. So, let's start by talking about Lucid Motors delaying the production of their Lucid Air Pure Edition. Now we all know that the Lucid Air Dream Edition was delayed. Initially expected to be produced in the second quarter of 2021, but it was then pushed back into the second half of this year. But a lot of people can't afford that $160,000 price tag for the Lucid Air Dream Edition and are more likely to opt for the Lucid Air Pure Edition. It still does over 400 miles per charge, has over 480 horsepower and costs significantly less, around $70,000 with the current US EV tax credit. It was originally expected that the Air Pure would be released in early 2022. Lucid originally planned to release a new model every quarter. The Lucid Air Dream Edition in Q2 of 2021, the Lucid Air Grand Touring in Q3, the Lucid Air Touring in Q4, and the Lucid Air Pure Edition in Q1 of 2022. However, it now seems like instead of releasing the Air Pure 3 quarters or 9 months after releasing the Lucid Air Dream Edition, they're now going to release it around 18 months or 6 quarters after the release of the Lucid Air Dream Edition in early to mid 2023. In my last video I noted that there's a number of reasons why Lucid Motors might be delaying delivery. However, with the Lucid Air Pure Edition, maybe they've been overly ambitious with how much they can reduce the manufacturing costs, and therefore they're having to delay production even further to avoid making a loss. Now obviously this isn't great news. Hopefully when the merger goes through and they get all of that CCIV cash and they start producing and shipping the Lucid Air Dream Edition, that they'll be able to compound quickly and generate that economies of scale, meaning that they'll be able to reduce their production costs because they're buying more and more components. That way they'll be able to release the remaining models even sooner. Now let's also talk about the Saudi PIF investing in their own EV company. The PIF has appointed a number of advisors, such as the Boston Consulting Group, to explore establishing its own domestic electric car maker. The article then goes on to talk about how Saudi Arabia want to diversify away from oil and invested in Tesla in 2018 and then subsequently Lucid Motors, and how they're planning on building a Lucid factory in Jeddah, but also have more than one project on the go to invest in and start their own EV company. The Saudi PIF are massive investors in Lucid Motors, and the Middle East would be a huge market for Lucid. With the Saudi PIF's backing, many Middle Eastern residents would definitely consider buying a Lucid Air, because even though Lucid Motors didn't originate in the Middle East, in a way they're somehow still supporting the Saudi PIF by buying a Lucid Motors vehicle. But if the Saudis start building up their own homegrown EV company, they might decide not to build a Lucid factory in Jeddah, and also the Saudis and Middle Eastern residents might decide that actually, instead of buying a Lucid Motors car, we'll buy one of the homegrown EVs from the Middle East. That would obviously massively affect Lucid Motors, as they'd lose out on a huge amount of sales from the Middle East and also lose out on a massive amount of production capacity if the Saudis decided not to build a Lucid factory in Jeddah. However, fortunately, I don't think this is too much of a risk for Lucid Motors. The Saudi PIF manages around $347 billion. And therefore they're obviously not going to bail out of every single penny of investment that they currently have to start up this homegrown EV company. The PIF have already made billions of dollars of profit from their investment in Lucid Motors. In 2018, they invested $1 billion for a majority shareholding, as in over 50%. The post-merger market cap for Lucid Motors is currently around $35 billion. 50% of that is $17.5 billion, meaning the PIF have made $16.5 billion of profit at this very moment. The Saudi PIF aren't exactly going to throw away the opportunity to turn this $16 billion profit into a $30 billion profit or a $50 billion profit. I don't think the PIF are going to bail out of their Lucid investment and forget about Lucid Motors and decide to not build the Lucid factory in Jeddah. They're just going to run multiple projects at once. Just a quick reminder to scroll down and make sure that you're subscribed to the channel. If you're not and you've already watched a few of my other videos, then subscribe and be sure to ding that notification bell, because that way you'll be alerted when I upload a new video. Now let's talk about Nano Dimensions and Senseonics. Nano Dimensions recently acquired Nano Fabrica, and the CEO even made a YouTube video about it. Nano Fabrica are focused on micro 3D printing components a fraction the size of pennies and even match tips. This will massively help Nano Dimensions with their 3D circuit board printing, as many components on circuit boards are minuscule, and it will also allow them to print even smaller circuit boards, such as circuit boards for watches or even for smartphones, instead of just regular circuit boards for computers and desktops. It was a $50 million acquisition that will help Nano Dimensions expand and reach new customers. They obviously have a lot of cash left over, so I'm really looking forward to seeing what other kind of acquisitions Nano Dimensions make going forward into the future. In terms of Senseonics, they still haven't yet received the FDA approval on their 180-day monitoring system. However, they are currently selling that 180-day monitoring system in Europe with a sensor. A writer from Investor Place thinks that the Senseonics stock is going to follow the Dexcom stock. I've spoken about Dexcom before in one of my other Senseonics videos. Dexcom is also a continuous glucose monitoring company with a $40 billion valuation. However, the Dexcom sensor only lasts 10 days, meaning that it needs to be replaced every 10 days. If Dexcom can command a $40 billion valuation with only a 10-day monitoring system, then Senseonics has a very good future, currently with a market cap of around $900 million, but with a 90-day monitoring system, a 180-day monitoring system, and soon to be a 365-day monitoring system. That writer from Investor Place thinks that over the next 5 years, the Senseonics stock could 5 to 10x, providing that they do receive that FDA approval. That 5 to 10x also doesn't factor in the advancements in technology, as Senseonics are obviously planning to release that 365-day system at some point in 2023. I've also given my thoughts on the channel before about Senseonics combining a monitoring system with a glucose pump. I think that would massively increase the benefit of the SENS system and really take Senseonics to the next level, as they'd not only be able to monitor the glucose levels in the body, but also dispense additional insulin into the body when needed. It was also recently found that Highbridge Capital Management recently increased their position in the Senseonics stock, adding an additional 15 million shares. It's always good to see funds and also insiders adding to their position in the Senseonics stock. In terms of how the market has performed over the last week or so, the CCIV stock rose from around $19 to around $23 to $24 before a slight pullback. The Senseonics stock rose from around $2 or $1.90 to around $2.30 before a slight pullback, and the NNDM stock rose from around $7 all the way up to $9 before again pulling back a bit. It's always good to see a slight increase in these stocks after what has been a pretty much 2-month solid downward trajectory for pretty much all growth stocks. We'll have to continue to watch and see as to whether the market has reversed into a bullish trajectory or whether this downward trajectory is going to continue. And as always guys, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to check out some of my others. Also, remember to get your free shares with Webull and Freetrade, and consider joining the Patreon and becoming part of the team. But for now, cheers.